I mean, look, I risked my life, my family's life, went all over the world, dealt with some of the most shadiest characters in the world because of Donald Trump, because I was so loyal to, because I believed he was honest and truthful, and we were trying to do good for our country. And look who he turned out to be. I mean, and that's why I'm trying to scream at the top of my lungs for people to realize that these elections are not about policies. These elections are not about if your eggs are more or taxes are higher or the gas. These elections are about saving our democracy from a dictatorship. That's what I'm trying to tell this country.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coalition of the Sane. And today is part one of the Lev Parnas interview. We're going to learn about the real dangers to democracy, what an access for is, and we're going to learn about the MAGA shakedown. So stay tuned, buckle up, and let's get to work. Everybody, I'd like to welcome Lev Parnas, my good friend, and somebody who I got to know. Gosh, when was it? When did I first meet you, Lev? Was it a couple years ago now?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
trying to
been
remember.
definitely, it's over a year,
Yeah,
definitely. Like about a year and a
definitely.
half now. Yeah,
Yeah,
about
definitely
that.
over a year. And I got to visit you in your hometown. I'm not
Yeah.
going to tell anybody where that is. And of course, the trees behind you are no clue. And but when I first met you, I was sort of stunned by your honesty and really your stories. And I want to ask you a question. We get started this way on the show. When did you first get, the best word I have is, and I don't know if anybody's asked you this, when did you get first recruited by Rudy or by the team on this Hunter Biden project that you've talked so much about?
Yeah, so I think I would say the actual first recruitment came in November. It was after we were actually at the Grand Havana Room. It was right after we were celebrating DeSantis's win for the 2018 governor. He won the governor of Florida. We were just finished traveling the country, supporting Trump candidates all over the place. And we were in the Grand Havana Room just talking shit, and all of a sudden he gets a phone call from one of his private investigators. Bart Schwartz was his name. And Rudy gets up and starts talking to him, and you could see that it was like a very interesting conversation, because Rudy's face expressions kept going like, whoa, like, faces like that. After he got off, he did what he usually would do. He sat down, grabbed a drink and his cigar, and would update me and Igor basically on everything he spoke about. But the difference in this meeting compared to the other ones, we would just usually listen to the stories or the conversation Rudy spoke about. But this time we got involved because it had to do with Ukraine. And we knew a lot of the characters and the things that Rudy was talking about. And all of a sudden, my partner Igor whips out a video of that infamous video that we all now see, where Joe Biden tells to fire the prosecutor, otherwise we won't give you $1 billion. And at that moment, Rudy exploded. His eyes lit up. He stood up. He says, "We got you." I mean, something I'm paraphrasing, like, "We got you, Joe," or "We got him now." And that was, I think, the moment when we got recruited, because right after that, Rudy basically asked us if we could go and find Victor Shokin. And we said, yes, we could do that. Then we had a conversation where Rudy told me he is now going to represent us. That was like, because I said to Rudy, I said, if we go to Ukraine, I mean, people are not just going to speak to us. Who the hell is Lev and Igor to go try to find Victor Shokin? And he turned around and said, well, now I'm going to represent you. I'm your lawyer. Just like so I only represent you, and I represent the president. And there was even a funny moment, because he asked us to give him like a $20 bill to make it official that now he represents us. And that was,
Wow,
I think, the first time we got recruited.
Oh, that's very professional. Very professional. And what was Igor's last name, Lev?
Fruman.
Yep. So
yeah.
The reason I'm going to ask you some of this is because the context we have on this is probably more than anybody on earth as we're talking about this. So that's why I think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to try to make it simple for the audience. I know you already did, but really it was a private investigator, somebody, we know, Bart Schwartz, who had called, and it was you and Igor Fruman, and Giuliani sees the video of Biden. And based on the information that he got, either he was a true believer that Joe was somehow gotten, or he knew this was a great way to go after the presumptive frontrunner at the time in November of 2018, to go after Joe Biden. And I guess for you, in knowing you, knowing how solid you are on receipts. I love the Lev Remembers hashtag. And I also love what you're doing on social media now and the receipts that you're bringing and the evidence that you're bringing. Take me back to the Lev of November 2018. I know we've already discussed this, but I think the audience would love to know what really made you buy into this mission. I know that, you're close to somebody in power and Rudy Giuliani. You have an incredible background, where you're from, what you know. You're so personable. People automatically feel comfortable around you. And I want to let you know that. But
Thank you.
what really attracted you to this as soon as you heard, here we are, November 2018, as soon as Rudy says, I got you, what attracted you to that task, the Joe Hunter Biden, chronicles?
It's a great question, but it wasn't, that was like the tipping toe, but it was a perfect storm that, that just a lot of things collided together to cause that action. First of all, you have to remember that before I even got close to Rudy Giuliani, I was very close to Donald Trump. Since 2015, I was on his campaign and with him throughout that, and at every rally, and we were his top donors, and so I had already a relationship with Trump, and I was already a hardcore Trumper. I was already in the cult. I was already up there in the top, loyalist supporters, top donors, and so I already was drinking the Kool-Aid at that point. Also, at the time, you have to remember that prior to even this happening with Rudy, I had already several conversations, not only with Donald Trump about getting rid of the ambassador to Ukraine, but also Pete Sessions had me go on a mission and sent me a private letter to deliver to Trump, where he wanted to bypass Secretary Pompeo to get rid of the ambassador of Ukraine, Maria Ivanovich. So I was already kind of involved, but I was still involved as a donor, as somebody was that trying to help and just giving things that I heard. But at this in particular meeting, everything collided to where we became not just donors and not just people that we're talking about. Now we were actually tasked to go do something and find Victor Shokin, which would be the key to originally that was a smoking gun. If we could find Victor Shokin, we thought that would explode everything, and it would expose the corrupt Biden family, which Rudy was on. You also have to keep in mind that prior to this, unbeknownst to me, Rudy was already, not only Rudy, but Devin Nunes, John Solomon, Rudy, they were already pushing information and looking into Ukraine going back from 2016, because they were trying to push that the Democratic servers were in Ukraine, that Paul Manafort ledgers were false. So there was a lot of already hatred and looking into corruption and trying to blame Ukraine instead of Russia for the meddling in the 2016 election. And then when this came about, it was the tipping, and basically that, that straw that broke the camel's back in their view, where they switched from everything and made Joe and Hunter Biden the main thing and the gotcha moment.
My goodness. And just to let everybody know, John Solomon, former Fox reporter, is now on this ridiculous news network, pretty much a propaganda peddler, would you say, Lev? And then we have Devin Nunes, former congressman, Pete Sessions, former congressman. So just to let people know.
He's current.
Right?
He was actually, Pete Sessions is sitting on the oversight committee that I was testifying.
Yeah, that's right. Pete's actually there now. Yeah, again, Pete's there. So I I've met Pete and his wife. But also, if you could, because you're the best at this, why is Shokin so important? Why don't you explain to the audience who Victor Shokin is really quickly, and then why is he important to this, and why was Rudy so excited to get with Shokin?
Yeah, so Victor Shokin was the ex general prosecutor of Ukraine, and he was the one there during the time towards the end when Hunter Biden joined the board of Burisma. Victor Shokin was the gentleman that was in the video that Joe Biden mentioned to say to get fired. So Victor Shokin became the key point. Why Giuliani wanted to see him, because Victor Shokin, after getting fired, went on a campaign saying that against that the deep state, that the Bidens, the Obamas, the Clintons were, using Ukraine as a corruption. That's why they wanted to get him out of there. And he filed a lawsuit in the World Court. And when with the video, Giuliani thought to himself that, if we could get Shokin come here and testify under oath that basically Hunter Biden did something corrupt in Ukraine, and he caught him and there was an investigation and Joe Biden fired him to cover it up, that would be the end of the Bidens. So that's why Victor Shokin was such a key person in that.
I love how quick you explain these things. And, me and you have had a lot of conversations. As you know, I did the forensics on the Hunter Biden laptops, or the laptop
Yeah,
data, but also
yeah,
laptops, and also some other things. And, I find it amazing, Lev, as we've talked and looking at going back to the past, you said something that was really, really, really profound. And I want people to realize what Lev has done and where Lev has come from, is that you had known Trump since 2015. And you already felt that you sort of were on Team Trump. I think you had a good
oh, big
relationship with him.
oh, big, yeah, big time.
Yep. And you said I was already a Kool-Aid drinker and in the cult. So I know we're talking about all these important people, right, that were part of this. It's interesting that you said deep state, also globalist. We have these words that they like to use. There's always a conspiracy theory. But it
That's
seems like
right.
in November of 2018, based on your relationship with Trump, you really thought there was something here. Looking at Rudy Giuliani's excitement, what Bart said, going after Shokin, all the people that you were actually related to or knew about. It seems to me at the time that you had sort of gone deep down the rabbit hole of sort of the
Oh,
Trump belief
absolutely.
system.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I mean, not only down the route, I was one of the leaders. I truly not only believed, but I pushed the narrative. I mean, I was full force on Trump. I mean, couldn't get any more Trumper than I was at that time. That's why I tell people, I mean, they tell me you're this, you're that. I said, you have no idea. You think you're a mega loyalist Trumper. You have no idea how loyal or mega I was and where I was and what I was willing to do. I mean, look, I risked my life, my family's life, went all over the world, dealt with some of the most shadiest characters in the world because of Donald Trump, because I was so loyal to, because I believed he was honest and truthful and we were trying to do good for our country. And look who we turned out to be. I mean, and that's why I'm trying to scream at the top of my lungs for people to realize that these elections are not about policies. These elections are not about if your eggs are more or taxes are higher or the gas. These elections are about saving our democracy from a dictatorship. That's what I'm trying to tell this country.
well, I tell you, buddy, I'm again, it's not just stunning. It is a tribute to how you actually did a 180, because and I know, again, listeners, if they do want to know more about what happened, you need, and I know this is shameless, but they need to buy Shadow Diplomacy by you. Because there's no
Thank you.
way, I think, on 20 to 40-minute podcasts that we can go into every single specific reference and context of the investigation that Lev was a part of, and trying to connect Hunter and Joe, right, to nefarious business dealings across the globe. It's a lot of work, but I wanted people to know the names specifically so they could go look them up. And thank you so much for the context on that, because I'm going to jump forward. So November 2018, you get the sort of the go order. January of 2019, you send me an incredible video, and I know this is already out in the wind, but I had it a little bit earlier than other people. You sent an incredible video of you and Giuliani in a meeting on a phone call. And I want you to, so we're going to do this January 2019. We're going to leap forward to Durkash and Furtash, if you want to go there, to some of the people that you know
Sure.
that are actually connected to the Russian government. But then I want to go into you personally, right, and where your 180-degree turn was. So this is how we're going to go down this line. And first of all, I want to start in January 2019. You sent me an incredible video. And if you want to explain that video real quickly, you send me a snippet
Sure.
of it. I think people would actually get a hell of a buzz if you could explain that very quickly.
Yeah, and Denver, I'm going to release snippets of it and keep going down. So I'm going to do what the oversight committee is doing. Instead of giving the whole thing in one blast, I'm going to drip it out so they can
Drip
enjoy
it
it for
out.
the next minute. It's a 45-minute video, and basically what happened was Victor Shokin, we were trying to get him to come to the United States to bypass the FBI, the DOJ, and go meet with Lindsey Graham directly and give him testimony, a sworn statement. Maria Ivanovich got word of it and basically put the kibosh on it and wouldn't let Victor Shokin travel to the United States. That's when the whole Maria Ivanovich get rid of Maria Ivanovich
Wait a
started.
minute, Lev. Are you telling me the Ivanovich firing was completely political because they weren't getting any type of information about the Bidens that they thought they deserved at this point?
Oh, 100%. I mean, poor, and I apologize. I apologize to Maria Ivanovich right after it happened. I mean, but yeah, she was basically targeted because of her being doing her job and stopping corruption and not allowing this Russian disinformation to get into the United States, and they needed to get rid of her. So that was the first thing that happened. That was in January when Shokin couldn't then come here. Then we decided to do a Skype video with him and get his testimony, and that's the snippets that you've seen. And the interesting part about the video is he goes on and talks about so many different things: corruption in in Ukraine and Russian Ukrainians, Americans, Democrats, Republicans. He goes into all kinds of rabbit holes. But then eventually Rudy gets really tired of, it's like 35 minutes into 40 minutes into the conversation, and he, stops and says, listen, I know it sounds bad, it looks bad, it's not right, but what did they do illegal, like criminal? Kickbacks? Did they take money under the table? Did they take a bribe? And then you hear a little pause, and then you hear Victor Shokin's translator say, no, they did nothing illegal. But if Victor Shokin would have got a chance to question them, then he would have found something. So it was the same old story that was shifting because there was no investigation. Victor Shokin had no relationship to Hunter Biden. The relationship Victor Shokin had with Burisma at the time was strictly a business relationship. That's what the general prosecutor's job was at the time. He would, find these big companies, go after them, and then they would pay him off, and he would stop the investigation. That's why Burisma, like a lot of other Ukrainian companies, would constantly get, investigations opened and closed. But none of it had to do with Hunter Biden. Most of those investigations were prior to even Hunter Biden, and that's where the.
So are you telling me that my guess is Giuliani wasn't very happy with that answer from Shokin, and
he was not.
He was not, and is it that time in January of 2019 where you tried to support Giuliani, and tell me if I'm wrong here. I just want to make sure, Lev, I have this correct. But my guess is that Julie doubled down on wanting to investigate this based on the fact there was nothing. And is that when you had the first introductions, or you're seeing the first individuals, and you can explain who they are, like Derkash and Telizhenko. Is this the first time that you are actually reaching out to them, or were they already part of the play by January of 2019?
Oh, no, they were not in the play yet, January to 2019. So interesting things happened to move this thing along. So, yes, Giuliani wasn't happy with his answer, but the story still gave enough smoke, as they call it, to be able to still keep going down the rabbit hole. But the one interesting thing that Shokin said to Giuliani that kept this thing alive in the very, still a way where we were still looking for the truth kind of way, was he said that the truth, the smoking gun, the wire transfers, the bank records where we could prove that Joe Biden got the money are in the general prosecutor's office of Ukraine. And he was not able to take it with him when he left because he got fired. So they're there and they're being covered up by the current general prosecutor, and they're there. So now we finished the meeting with Shokin, and lo and behold, 2 days later, all of a sudden we get a phone call from the the friend of the general prosecutors of Ukraine, Yuri Lutsenko, saying, wait, we're in New York. We'd like to meet with Giuliani.
What a coincidence that must be.
Right, like 2 days later, to meet with the Attorney General Bill Barr. So, we called Giuliani. Giuliani was like, holy shit, absolutely, bring him in, because that's who we need. He's the one that could give us the current records. So we set up the meeting, and Lutsenko comes in, and it became a very awkward meeting because Lutsenko comes in with the perception that he is the general prosecutor, meeting with like the ex-prosecutor, Rudy Giuliani, and that he was on a mission to meet with the current prosecutor general, Bill Barr. And he wanted to discuss criminality between the Templeton Fund and money that was going in from Ukraine to America. Had nothing to do with the Bidens or anything else. It was about a real corrupt money laundering scheme that was going from Ukrainians to America and then back to Ukraine. So Giuliani stops him right away and says, we're not here to talk about the Templeton Fund. If he goes, if you want that, he goes, you could hire me and I could help you with that. He goes, but unless you have direct information that can help us with the Bidens and the corruption and Joe and Hunter Biden, don't waste my time. We have nothing to talk about. And Lutsenko was really taken back. He couldn't understand, in Russian, he would tell me, like, wait a second, I'm the general prosecutor of Ukraine. Like, I want to meet Attorney General Bill Barr. Like, what is the problem? So I go tell that to Rudy, and Rudy's like, look, you want to meet Attorney General Barr? The way things work here, you have to pay a lobbyist, and they will get you in there. So you could pay me $200,000, and I will introduce you to Attorney General Bill Barr. So Lutsenko gets taken back again. He's like, what the hell is going on over here? So we stopped the meeting. Giuliani tells me, listen, go work on him and make sure that, tomorrow he brings us the goods. So that evening I go meet with Lutsenko and Igor. They get drunk, and Lutsenko's pouring his heart out to me, like he can't believe what just happened. Like, he looked up to Giuliani, like he, as his hero, and all this stuff. And here Giuliani's basically shaking him down for 200,000 to go meet the Attorney General Barr. And, I did my job. I calmed him down. I talked him into it. I explained to him that, listen, how things work all over the world. And this is just how things work in the United States. I mean, you got to play ball and to get what you need to get. So Lutsenko agreed to come the next day. The next day he comes to the office. Now he brings already more of the carrot dangling in front of me. Not facts, not proof, but stuff that had to do with more juicy stuff in the Burisma investigation. He brought us, certain bank records with Hunter's name on it. He brought us stuff where there was, showed that Hunter that did work for Burisma, and yes, Burisma did, have investigation, but nothing to link it together. And it wasn't like, here it is, the smoking gun.
You said something about you going to work on them, which is really interesting that you use that term. That's pretty neat, that you're trying to work on them for a couple things, right? To get the information you need, whether it's fake or false, but also, are you telling me that Rudy Giuliani was an access whore and that he liked to actually do pay to play? Oh, that's really interesting, Lev, I tell you. And the reason the reason I'm talking about access whores is back in 2005, 2006, I met with the Giuliani group on a data platform we were building for a 3-letter agency. And that very basis of a data platform is the AI company I have today. And when we actually tracked all the bad actors in J6 and with the forensics, it was that platform we were using that I tried to actually, with the other company, we went to the Giuliani group, and the money that they wanted to charge was absolutely outstanding. It was a massive amount of money to guarantee contracts. And, the fact is that I actually have personal experience with it. And I just find it amazing. No, I don't. I'm not even surprised at all that, of course, he would charge $200,000 for access. Is what you were saying, correct?
Denver, he took $500,000 from us to be the face of fraud guarantee, and don't forget that. Remember, and never got charged with it.
It's all about the money, isn't it, Lev? And it's really what it goes back to, is that Trump winning really did guarantee Rudy Giuliani a financial line for a long time. And the way that he does make money is by peddling access. And if he doesn't have the goods, he can't charge for that access. And I think that put a lot of pressure on him to really go out and try to find things that maybe weren't there. Am I saying that kindly?
Very kindly.
I want to go back to January 2019. Shokin doesn't make him happy. Lutsenko all of a sudden shows up. You have to talk them into, continuing their dialogue with Giuliani in multiple levels. And now it seems to me, now you start with a new strategy. And is that strategy now to hook into certain people that might or might not be related to the Russian government?
Not yet. We're getting there. But the important part that I want to also, for your viewers to know, that happened at that meeting, that just so to understand the micromanagement that Trump had over all of this that was going on, because I know he claims, he has a memory problem. He doesn't remember who I am. He doesn't remember what happened in Ukraine. So, but during the meeting, Rudy got up and called Trump and got him on the phone and stood in front of Lutsenko and told Lutsenko that President Trump is very happy and pleased with the information that the Ukrainian prosecutor is going to give to them, and put his hands up. And that blew Lutsenko away, basically. By Giuliani getting Trump on the phone in front of him and talking about it, it put Lutsenko, Lutsenko went into a daze. You could tell right away. And then the plan after that was that we were supposed to meet in Poland. And the reason Poland is because, again, everything we were doing had to be shadow underground, so the media wouldn't get a track, Giuliani or me being somewhere. So Giuliani was supposed to go to Poland to do a MEK, another gig that he was doing, lobbyist gig. I don't know how he got away with, in Poland on behalf of them. So Lutsenko met with us in Poland, and where we met at a bar. And I've never seen two people drink as much in my life. The bill was over $8,000 on bourbon and whiskey that they were drinking. Denver, yeah, they were drinking some Japanese stuff, Hokkaido or Hokkaido. I don't know. You might know better.
Oh, they were, yeah. I mean, they were not the Yamazaki or the Hibiki, right? They were going with the
Hibiki.
Was it
Hibiki also,
Hibiki?
I
Yeah,
remember.
it
There
was
was a
Hibiki. Sorry, I
Hibiki,
know
yeah.
I should know my whiskey so well, should I, Lev? But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so they were snorting Hibiki and having a good
Yeah.
old time. Is that what you're saying?
Good old time, good old time. And the plan was that Giuliani wouldn't go to Ukraine because the media would be all over it. So he would send me, and Lutsenko would need to get me to Poroshenko because Poroshenko was the president, and he would make once Poroshenko was on board, then Lutsenko would be willing to open up an investigation, announce it, and do whatever we wanted. So straight from Poland, I went off to Ukraine. After a couple of days sitting by the phone waiting to get that phone call, eventually I got a call like 11 o'clock at night that there was cars waiting for me downstairs with bodyguards. They took me to the presidential palace where we went, instead of up, we went 4 floors down. And eventually I met up in this crazy room with President Poroshenko, Yuri Lutsenko, and they were there, and we had the meeting. The meeting was about 3 hours. And it was the interesting part of the meeting, after all the pleasantries and everything. Once I went into the message that Trump wanted me to give to him by announcing an investigation into the Bidens. And at that time, there were elections going on in Ukraine, and Poroshenko was running for re-election. And the carrot that we were dangling was that Trump said that he would come out and fully support Poroshenko for re-election if he would to come out and announce an investigation into the Bidens. So Poroshenko looked at me, and then he stopped me for a second and said, "Let me tell you a little story, Lev." He goes, when I went to the White House, I think it was in 2017, or when he got his visit that he paid for to get through back channels because Trump wouldn't invite him to come see him in the Oval. When he finally got his way into the White House, after his couple of minute meeting with Trump, on his way out, he was approached by a Trump staffer that came up to him and said, "President Poroshenko, the president asked if you could do him a favor. He's going to Pennsylvania next week at a rally, and he would like to announce that Ukraine purchased coal from this Pennsylvania coal company." And Poroshenko looks at him and goes like, "Oh, okay, like what do you want me to do?" He goes, "Well, will you purchase the coal?" So Poroshenko, he goes, "I got taken back a little bit, but I thought maybe this was my way to build my relationship with Trump." So even though the coal was more expensive, Poroshenko, and this is all public information, people just don't know about it because a lot of people don't. But if you look into it and Google it, you'll see Poroshenko went and bought the coal. Trump went and made the announcement at the rally to a standing ovation in the crowd. And after that, Poroshenko goes, I can't even get a phone call with him. He goes, "So you want me to now go out and get involved in your corrupt election scheme?" And this is how he's talking to me, and go and put my country in the middle of it, and you want me to trust that Donald Trump is going to support me and do it? He goes, "I don't know if I could do that." He goes, "So I'm not saying no and I'm not saying yes." He goes, "I need to take a time out to think about it." And that's how we ended our
That
meeting
was the
with
end of the
Pearl.
conversation.
That
And
was
that
the end of the conversation.
when would the dates? So you're talking about the fact that he used the words corrupt election scheme really strikes me. The fact that there was, deal making going on based on some not only unsaid quid pro quo, but maybe some specific quid pro quo when you're looking about Biden, coming on as the strongest contender for the
Yeah.
for the presidency on the Democratic side.
Yep.
What date was that? Do you remember the date or the dates generally that you met with Poroshenko
It
in
was
that room?
February. Oh, I remember exactly. It was like it was the week of February 12th between 12th and the 19th, around Valentine's Day,
That's unbelievable. And had you heard
2019.
by 2019, so around Valentine's Day 2019, and I'm trying to remember what I was doing. I think I was buying chocolates or something. But but I was actually in Congress at that time. So this is really interesting. I've been in Congress a month. Goodness, this is pretty interesting because now I have
And the
another
other
person that
and the other interesting part, well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is that Bill
no, it's
Barr
okay.
just came into office February of 2019, and he right away gets on that we were being looked at as invested because they were already word that we were in Ukraine, stirring up, trying to talk. So Bill Barr starts looking into us around that same time and starts getting detailed accounting of what's going on with me, Giuliani, Ukraine, and all of that.
Next week on Coalition of the Sane, part 2 of Denver's interview with Lev Parnas.
And just think about it. At the day of my arrest, the Attorney General Bill Barr went and visited the Southern District of New York to oversee my arrest. The Attorney General of New York, of the United States of America, and then right after that went and had dinner with Rupert Murdoch from Fox.